Now, I want to talk to you about something rather peculiar. You see, we have been brought up in a civilization which is absolutely frantic about the pursuit of happiness. From the moment you open your eyes in the morning, there is this extraordinary pressure to get somewhere, to accomplish something, to become a better version of yourself than you were when you went to bed. And the curious thing is, the harder you try, the worse it gets. I have always been fascinated by what I call the backwards law. Sometimes I call it the law of reversed effort, and it goes something like this. When you try to stay on the surface of the water, you sink, but when you try to sink, you float. Now think about that for a moment. When you hold your breath, you lose it, but when you let it go, it continues on its own, quite beautifully, without any interference from you whatsoever. The same is true when you try to fall asleep. You lie there in bed and you say to yourself, I must go to sleep. I have an important meeting tomorrow. I really must get some rest. And what happens? The harder you try, the more wide awake you become. You can only fall asleep when you stop trying to fall asleep, when you give up the project entirely. Now, this is a very strange thing, because everything we have been taught suggests that the way to get what you want in life is through effort, through striving, through gritting your teeth and pushing forward. And for certain things, mechanical things, physical things, this is quite true. If you want to move a heavy rock, you must apply force. That's straightforward. But when it comes to the things that really matter to us, happiness, peace of mind, love, creative inspiration, a sense of meaning, the application of direct effort produces precisely the opposite of what we're after. Let me put it another way. The desire for security and the feeling of insecurity are the same thing. To hold your breath is to lose your breath. A society based on the quest for security is nothing but a breath retention contest in which everyone is as taut as a drum and as purple as a beet. You see, the more frantically you grab at life, the more it slips through your fingers, like trying to catch water in your fist. The tighter you squeeze, the less you have. But if you simply cup your hands and let the water rest there, without grasping, you can hold quite a lot. Now let's just settle for a moment. Don't try to do anything special with your breathing. Don't try to breathe deeply. Don't try to breathe slowly. Just notice that breathing is happening. It's going on without your management. It was going on while you were asleep last night. It will go on when you're no longer paying attention to it. You see, this is one of the most marvelous things about you. So much of what you are is happening all by itself. Your heart is beating, your blood is circulating, your neurons are firing, your hair is growing, your food is digesting, and you don't have the faintest idea how you're doing any of it. And yet here you are, doing it. So if all of this can happen without your conscious interference, and indeed it happens rather better without your interference, then perhaps the same is true of happiness itself. Now, most people think happiness is something you achieve. You set a goal, you work very hard, you accomplish the goal, and then at last you are happy. But have you noticed that this never actually works? Because the moment you achieve the goal, you immediately set a new one. The moment you get the thing you wanted, you start wanting something else. And so happiness remains perpetually in the future, like the horizon always visible, never reachable. This is what the Buddhists call the hungry ghost, a being with an enormous appetite and a tiny, tiny mouth. No matter how much it consumes, it can never be satisfied. And here's the real secret, you see. Here is what almost nobody understands. The very act of pursuing happiness is what makes you unhappy. Because the pursuit of happiness is based on an assumption, an unexamined assumption that you are not happy now. That happiness is somewhere else, some other time, in some other condition than the one you presently occupy. And as long as you believe that, you can never be happy. Because the present moment, which is the only moment that actually exists, is never good enough. It's always a stepping stone to somewhere else. There's a very old idea, it comes from the Tao Te Ching, from the ancient Chinese sages, which we might translate as not forcing. In Chinese, it's called Wu Wei, and it doesn't mean doing nothing in the sense of being passive or lazy. It means not going against the grain, not fighting the current, swimming with the water instead of against it. You know, when you watch a cat, you'll notice something very interesting. A cat doesn't try to be a cat. A cat doesn't wake up in the morning and say, "Today I must work on my catness. I must improve my feline qualities. I must become a better cat than I was yesterday." Number A cat just cats, effortlessly, perfectly. And we look at a cat and we think, what a beautiful creature, because it's completely at home in itself. There's no strain, no pretense, no reaching for something beyond what it already is. Now, I'm not suggesting that you become a cat. That would be inadvisable for all sorts of practical reasons. But there is something to learn here. You are already what you're looking for. The peace you seek is not going to come from adding anything to your life. It can only come from removing the obstruction, which is your frantic seeking itself. There's a Zen story about a student who goes to his master and says, "Master, how do I attain enlightenment?" And the master says, "Have you eaten your breakfast?" The student says, "Yes." The master says, "Then wash your bowl." That's it. That's the whole teaching. Wash your bowl. Because enlightenment isn't something that happens after breakfast. It isn't something that happens tomorrow. It isn't something that happens when you finally solved all your problems and arranged your life just so. It's happening now, in the washing of the bowl, in the ordinary, everyday act that you're probably ignoring because you're busy thinking about something else. Now, this is the real secret of life, to be completely engaged with what you are doing in the here and now, and instead of calling it work, realize it is play. You see, we have divided life into two categories. There's the serious stuff work, obligations, duties, responsibilities, and then there's the fun stuff, which we're allowed to have in our spare time, if we have any spare time left. But this division is completely artificial. It's a trick we've played on ourselves. A musician doesn't play music to get to the end of the song. If that were the purpose of music, the best musicians would be the ones who played fastest. The best composers would be the ones who wrote the shortest pieces. But that's absurd. The point of music is music, the playing itself. And the same is true of dancing. You don't dance to get to a particular spot on the floor. The purpose of dancing is dancing. And so it is with life. We keep thinking that life is a journey from here to there, that we're going somewhere, that the meaning of it all will become clear when we arrive at where? The end? Well, we all know what's at the end, and it seems rather strange to say that that's where the point of it all is. No, the meaning of life is life. It's so plain and so obvious and so simple, and yet everybody rushes around in a great panic as if it were necessary to achieve something beyond themselves. Let's take another moment now just to be here. Notice the sounds around you. You don't have to label them. You don't have to judge them as pleasant or unpleasant. Just notice that hearing is happening. Notice the sensation of your own body sitting or lying where you are, the weight of it, the aliveness in it, the subtle currents of energy moving through it. And notice that this moment, this very moment, lacks nothing whatsoever. It is complete in itself. It doesn't need to be improved. It doesn't need to lead anywhere. This is what the mystics have always been pointing to, not some exotic state of consciousness, not some far-off heaven, but this, exactly this, the so-called ordinary world, seen without the film of past and future, seen without the desperate grasping of, how can I use this? How can I improve this? How can I get more of this? There's a beautiful Zen saying, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. Nothing changes, you see, and everything changes, because you're no longer doing it to get somewhere. You're doing it because it's being done. You're doing it because you are it doing itself. So here's the great paradox. Here is the backwards law in its fullness. You cannot attain happiness by pursuing it. But if you stop pursuing it, if you give up the whole project, you may discover that you are already immersed in it, that you were standing in the middle of the ocean the whole time, desperately asking, where is the water? The water is everywhere. The happiness is everywhere. The peace is everywhere. Not because everything is perfect. Perfection is another idea that keeps you running, but because this is it. There is no other. You cannot walk off with a river in a bucket. If you try to capture running water, it is clear that you do not understand it, and you will always be disappointed, because in the bucket, the water does not run. To have running water, you must let go of it and let it run. And so it is with life, with happiness, with love, with everything that matters most. Let go. Not because letting go will get you something. That would just be another grasping, dressed up in spiritual clothing. Let go because there was never anything to hold on to in the first place. You know, people often ask me, but if I let go, won't everything fall apart? Won't I become irresponsible? Won't I just lie around and do nothing? And I always find this question rather touching because it assumes that the only thing keeping you functional is this constant state of anxiety and striving, that without the whip of your own ambition, you would simply collapse into a heap. But look at nature. Look at the trees, the birds, the clouds. They don't seem to be striving, and yet they do what they do beautifully, perfectly. You are nature too, you know. You are not a stranger who came into this world from somewhere else. You came out of this world the way a wave comes out of the ocean, the way a flower comes out of a plant. You are something the whole universe is doing in the same way that a wave is something the whole ocean is doing. And when you feel that really feel it, not just think about it, then there's nothing left to grab at because you are already it. You are already here. You are already home. So, what do you do with this understanding? Nothing special. You simply go on with your life. You do your work. You have your relationships. You face your challenges. But there's a different quality to it now, a lightness, because you're no longer fighting against the stream. You're no longer trying to be what you already are. It's like suddenly realizing that you've been holding your stomach in all day, trying to look thinner, and then you just let it out. And there's this tremendous relief, this relaxation. That's what letting go feels like. Not irresponsibility, not passivity, but the end of the inner war. So, the backwards law, the law of reversed effort. When you try to stay on the surface, you sink. When you try to sink, you float. When you pursue happiness, you create unhappiness. When you stop pursuing it, you may find it was here all along. When you grasp at life, it slips away. When you let it go, you discover you were never separate from it in the first place. This is the great cosmic joke, you see. We've been running around looking for something we already have, trying to become something we already are. And when we finally stop running, we look down and realize, oh, here I am. I was here the whole time. Now, in your own time, gently begin to bring your awareness back to the space around you. There's no hurry. Feel your body in this place. Hear the sounds of this environment. And remember, you don't have to carry this teaching with you like a burden. You don't have to remember every word. You don't have to apply it correctly. That would just be more grasping, more striving, more of the same old game. Simply notice as you go about your day when you're trying to hold your breath, when you're grasping at water with a closed fist, and when you notice it perhaps, just perhaps you can simply open your hand. That's all. So,